Next tonight, a man abused by a Church of England priest says the police missed the chance to catch his attacker. He's told the BBC he reported the abuse to Devon Cornwall Police in 2001, but no action was taken. The abuser was jailed last year. The police say far greater measures to support victims of historic sex offences are now in place. Our Home Affairs correspondent Simon Hall reports.
They've been described as terrible crimes. The retired priest, Vickery House, was found guilty of a series of sex offences at the Old Bailey. His first and youngest victim was 14 years old when he was assaulted in 1970 in Devon. The effects have lasted a lifetime.
I reached a point where I couldn't function properly as a human being. I had a breakdown, and if it hadn't been for a very supportive wife and family, I doubt whether I'd be here talking to you about it now.
House was a curate at Crediton Parish Church when he met his first victim. He went on to work as a vicar in East Sussex, where for years he carried out more assaults. But then in 2001, back in Devon, something happened which could have led to his arrest.
My mother was dying and she wanted Vickery House to take the funeral. And I had a meltdown on the spot and can just remember being on the floor and screaming. I obviously had to tell my family then, because they were there, what had happened and why that wasn't appropriate. My mother never found that out. She died believing he was a man of God and could be trusted. I knew different. After my mother died, my wife and I went to the police and I made a statement detailing the 2 assaults that he'd made on me.
What happened to that statement made here at Crediton Police Station 15 years ago is now under scrutiny. When House finally went on trial last year, the court heard about the statement, but was told that for reasons that remain unknown, nothing was done about it. The victim says he now intends to make a formal complaint.
If that had been dealt with properly at that time, then I would hope I could have dealt with all the issues around that and moved on with my life 10, 15 years earlier, which would have made a huge difference to my children. I also may have saved some other people from being abused.
In a statement, Devon and Cornwall Police told us,
back in 2001, the way in which police dealt with complaints of historic sexual abuse was very different and not at all reflective of today's policing. Should such an allegation be made now, the measures to support victims are far greater.
The Bishop of Exeter asked if he could apologise in person to House's first victim.
One can't undo the past, but in any way that one can make some recompense for the damage that has been done, it must be appropriate. I mean, that's what justice is about.
It was the first time the Bishop had met an abuse survivor.
I met a person who had been very damaged by this. I met a person who was not bitter. There was not a shred of resentment that I encountered in this, and that's why actually I felt honoured that he should be prepared to meet me in that sort of way. I thought a man who was actually extending considerable forgiveness.
Senior clergy say they have put in place more robust measures to detect and prevent the kind of abuse Vickery House carried out in Devon and Sussex. This week, the Goddard inquiry into child sexual abuse began looking at evidence relating to the Anglican Church, with a remit of identifying the failings of the past and demanding accountability. Simon Hall, BBC Spotlight.